Hello everyone, we are group 3. Today we are going to introduce Genesis. This is our group member, Icy, Lovey, Jimmy, and me, Freya. This is our outline. We will present chapter 3, 4, and 6 tonight. First is a summary of chapter 3. This tells the story of humanity's fall. The serpent tempted Eve to eat the forbidden food, and she gave it to Adam. They realized their nakedness and felt shame. When confronted by God, Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. As punishment, the serpent was cursed. Eve endured painful childbirth, and Adam had to toil for survival. They were expelled from Eden, beginning human suffering and moral awareness. Next is my analysis of the text, focusing on two key points. First, the symbolism of the serpent. The serpent in chapter 3 is often seen as a symbol of deception and evil, yet it also represents wisdom and knowledge. Unlike Adam and Eve, the serpent is aware of the consequence of eating the forbidden food. This raises the question, was the serpent purely deceitful, or did it merely reveal a hidden truth? The serpent's role challenged the idea of blind obedience versus the pursuit of knowledge. And the second one is blame and human nature. After eating the forbidden fruit, Adam and Eve do not take responsibility for their actions. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. This reflects a common human tendency to shift blame rather than accept consequence. The passage highlights the struggle with accountability, a theme that remains relevant in human behavior today. Okay, this is my overall summary and personal analysis of chapter 3. Next, let's invite Lovey to tell you about chapter 4 and 6.
I'm Lavinda and I'm number 45, and today I'm going to be covering chapter 4 and 6 that starts from the tale of Cain and Abel all the way towards Noah's story. And these two chapters reveal profound truths about sin, judgment, and also redemption. So the story begins with Cain and Abel, which are the sons of Adam and Eve. Cain is a farmer and Abel is a shepherd, and they both offered sacrifices to God. Now, if we take a closer look at Cain and Abel, when Eve gives birth to Cain, she says, "I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord." This phrase hints at her sense of partnership with God in creation. And then later, when Cain and Abel brings offerings to God, Abel offers the choice firstlings of his flocks, while Cain's offerings the fruit of the soil. But God accepts Abel's offering and not Cain's, which leads to Cain's anger. And after feeling mad and full of jealousy, he decided to kill his own brother, Abel. And after Cain kills Abel, sin begins to spread. So by Genesis 4 to 5, it traces growth of humanity. But as the population grows, also does sin. And by Genesis 6, the situation has worsened, where the text says, "The Lord saw that the wickedness of men was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." So this widespread corruption leads God to a drastic decision, which is to start over the earth with Noah, a righteous man. Then in Genesis 6, we can see the depth in humans' sin, where the earth is described as corrupt or filled with violence. God is grieved to his heart and even regrets creating humanity. And the text says, Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, and describes him as a righteous man, blameless in his generation. So Noah's faithfulness really contrasts sharply with the evil that is surrounding him. And because of his righteousness, God chooses Noah to be the vessel for his plan of renewal. So God instructs Noah to build an ark to save his family and pairs of animals. So then comes the flood, where it represents both God's judgment on sin and his commitment to preserving life. So the ark becomes a symbol of hope, which is a way for humanity and creation to start anew. Noah's obedience in building the ark really showed his trust in God, even when the task seemed impossible and absurd at his time. So from my observation and some personal reflection, I do feel like God in this context really portrayed as a deeply loving and forgiving Father, because despite granting us humans free will, which is a gift for us that allows us to choose our own path, He still continued to show immense patience and care even when we fail. And when humanity's sin reached its peak, God could have just turned away entirely. But instead, He chose to refresh the earth through Noah, offering us a new beginning. And I feel like this act really reflects His vast, deep, gracious love for humanity, which is a love that seeks restoration rather than destruction, even in the face of our failures.
Hello everyone, this is Jimmy. Now I would like to summarize chapter 7 and chapter 8. So first, let's talk about chapter 7. It's all about the great flood begins. So first, God commands Noah to enter the ark with his family because God thinks that Noah is deemed righteous. Then Noah is instructed to take 7 pairs of deemed clean animals and 1 pair of each unclean animal. Then after 7 days, the flood begins, lasting for 40 days and 40 nights. After that, the well springs of the deep burst, and the casement of the heaven opened, covering even the highest mountains. After that, all living creatures outside the ark perish. Then the water remains high for 150 days, lifting the ark and keeping it afloat. That's all about chapter 7. Now let's take a look at chapter 8. It's all about the great flood ends. So God remembers Noah and the creatures in the ark and sends the wind to make the waters recede. Then the ark comes to the rest of the mountains of Ararat after 150 days. Then Noah sends out a raven, which flies back and forth until the waters dry up. After that, he then releases a dove, which returns at first, but later brings back an olive leaf. It means that the land is drying. After more waiting, Noah, his family, and all the animals leave the ark. Then Noah builds an altar and offers a burnt sacrifice to God. And at the end, God promised never to destroy the earth by flood again, and establishes the natural cycle of freezes. And that's all about chapter 7 and chapter 8. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Qingwei Qiao, and today I'm going to talk about chapter 9 of Genesis. So here is a quick summary of this chapter. This chapter marks a new beginning after the flood. God blesses Noah and his sons, commanding them to multiply and allowing them to eat meat, except with blood. He establishes a covenant, promising never to flood the earth ever again, with the rainbow as a sign. Later, Noah gets drunk, and his son Ham disrespects him, leading Noah to curse Ham's son, Canaan, while blessing Shem and Japheth. Now let's get to the overview of important scenarios and events. Okay, the first one is God's blessing and command. First, we see God giving Noah and his sons a blessing and a command. He tells them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." This echoes what God told Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 1, showing that Noah is like a second Adam, starting humanity anew. But there's a key difference. God now allows humans to eat meat. However, there's only one condition. They must not consume blood, because blood represents life. And then the second one, we have God's covenant and the rainbow. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. This is the first official covenant in the Bible, and it's unique because it
applies not only to Noah and his descendants, but to all living creatures. And finally, Noah's drunkenness and the curse of Canaan. We reach the most controversial part of Genesis chapter 9. After the flood, Noah becomes a farmer and plants a vineyard. He drinks wine, becomes drunk, and ends up naked in his tent. His son Ham sees him and tells his brother, but instead of exposing their father's shame, Noah's other sons, Sheth and Japheth, cover him with a garment without looking at him. When Noah wakes up, he curses Ham's son Canaan, saying, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." Now let's take a closer look at some key verses and their deeper meanings. And the first one is, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." This introduces capital punishment, emphasizing that human life is sacred because people are made in God's image. The second one is, "I establish my covenant with you. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth." This verse emphasizes God's mercy. Even though humanity will continue to sin, God promises restraint. The rainbow is a symbol of this mercy, reminding us that even in judgment, God provides hope. The last one is, "When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, 'Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers.'" This passage is one of the more challenging ones. It raises questions about family honor, respect, and consequences. Now, the last part is discussion of issues and the scenarios or events. The first one, we have divine authority versus human responsibility. God gives humanity freedom, but also lays down laws, especially about life and justice. The chapter forces us to ask, how should we balance free will with moral responsibility? The second one is trust in God's covenant. After witnessing the flood's destruction, could Noah and his family fully trust God's promise? And can we, in our own lives, trust that God's plans are ultimately for good? The third one, we have power, honor, and the curse of Canaan. Was Noah's curse just? Should children suffer for their parents' mistakes? This story highlights themes of generational consequences and power struggles that appear throughout history. And this is the task assignment list. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you.